Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on anti-Semitism rearing its ugly head in schools in South Africa. Now, we all knew it was only a matter of time because our government has set the precedent in how they treat our Jewish friends in South Africa. And you can also see it through their policies, how they are aligning with anti-Jewish organizations. I mean, the fact that we've had senior, high-ranking officials meeting with terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas, I think it sets a very clear message to everybody in this country who the government supports and who the government aligns with. Now, this is trickled down to schools, and what is really problematic is that the teachers and the principal doesn't seem to even be bothered by the fact that they have been accused of these things. And we'll dive into this into the video to give you the truth, because the school that has been implicated in being anti-Semitic has come out with a press statement which definitely can be proven to be absolute horseshit. And the reason for that is because there are voice notes. That's right. They didn't anticipate that one. But anyway, let's unpack it quick. And before we do, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. It's absolutely free. The overwhelming majority of you that regularly watch my content aren't subscribed. But you can fix that by just clicking the subscribe button below, and it'll be greatly appreciated. All right, so let's listen to the voice note that kicked all of this off.
Good afternoon all. Thought I'd leave just this voice note, because it's not going to be easy for me to type. It'll take too long. Been teaching now for 36 years, and today I've probably witnessed the most disgusting act in my teaching career. Our King David first team tennis girls were scheduled to play Roedean this afternoon at Roedean, and Roedean have refused to play us based on the fact that the kids that they're going to be walking onto their courts are Jewish. I've never seen a level of anti-Semitism actually go down to that particular point in schools. And there's a school like Roedean who actually will refuse to play another school based on that school's religion. I think it's absolutely disgusting and absolutely disgraceful. I went across actually specifically to go and watch the tennis, myself and the principal, and we were faced with this particular this event that unfolded in front of us. I've never seen anything like it. Our girls are devastated, as you can imagine, to have this anti-Semitic event thrown into their face. So it's going to be very interesting to see now how the Jewish Board of Deputies takes this, because this is obviously not going to go away quietly. There will also be an official complaint to SASA as well with regards to it. Whether what SASA can do, I don't know. But yeah, really, really upsetting, and I'm really, really disturbed by this whole thing.
So as you can clearly hear, this teacher who's been a teacher for over 30 years went there, and then the people from Roedean, the students, refused to go on and play. Now, there's been a lot of he said, she said, and ultimately they've tried to muddy the waters by saying, oh no, that is not what happened. Well, let's focus for a second on the fact that there was a voice note sent, which is readily available. If you are interested in this, you can definitely find it on the internet. I'm not going to play it because of potential lawsuits that can take place. I know that it is in the public domain, but I don't know whether the person involved in the recording the conversation asked for the permission of the other person, and therefore I won't play it. But it is readily available, and I will summarize later in this video what was said between these two teachers, the one being a principal and the other one being a teacher at the school. I will unpack it in that way, but I'm not going to play the voice notes. But Newsday gives us a great breakdown of what went down, so let's have a look. All right, so it says, top South African school allegedly refused to play tennis against Jewish opponents. And it says, students from Roedean, a prestigious Johannesburg-based girls' school, have been slated for their alleged refusal to play tennis against Jewish opponents. Reports emerged over the weekend that girls from Roedean tennis team had refused to play King David because they were Jewish. There was reportedly a voice note from a coach and the King David principal describing how the Roedean girls had refused to walk onto the court. That was that voice note that I just played for you. On Sunday, the 8th of Feb, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies condemned what they called a discriminatory refusal to play at a Jewish school. We condemned the blatant prejudice shown by the Roedean, which refused to honor the fixture scheduled with the King David girls team, the group said. The fixture was set to take place on the Roedean School for Girls courts of their Parktown campus. According to the Jewish Board of Deputies, King David School has notified its parent body of this incident. It continues to engage with ISASA and Roedean to address it. This disturbing refusal to play Jewish learners is a deeply upsetting for the Jewish tennis players, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies said. It also conveys the message that hate and discrimination have become acceptable values at Roedean. It added that Roedean cannot claim to be guided by a strong set of values and principles when it violates the South African Constitution. Sport has the potential to unite and harness diversity, but regrettably, Roedean flouted that opportunity by boycotting the Jewish school, it said. Now, the King David School has given us some more clarity here, saying it said the incident occurred during a scheduled inter-school tennis fixture involving our King David High School first and second teams earlier this week at Roedean. The issue is being investigated and addressed through the appropriate channels, it said in a statement. It is in consultation with ISASA, the Independent Schools Association of Southern Africa, and the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. The SAJBD is also meeting with Roedean, who have been very willing to engage, King David High School said. As the incident is ongoing and out of respect for all parties involved, the school will not be commenting further at this time. And now this is Roedean's very first response with regards to the allegations. Roedean said it is aware of the circulation of a voice note relating to a scheduled inter-school tennis fixture with King David Linksfield that did not proceed as planned. We recognize the seriousness of the concerns that have been raised and the distress this matter has caused to students, families, and the wider school community, it said. It is engaging with King David Linksfield and ISASA to ensure that the circumstances surrounding the fixture are fully understood and addressed through the appropriate processes. In line with those engagements, it would be inappropriate to debate or litigate the facts publicly at this stage, Roedean said. It added that it has a long-standing commitment to inclusion and respect for all communities, and anti-Semitism has no place in our school. We will communicate further once the current process has concluded. But then the Roedean school girls gave an updated statement on Sunday. And they said, Roedean has become aware of the circulation of a voice note attributed to a senior teacher at King David Linksfield, alleging anti-Semitic conduct by Roedean in relation to a tennis fixture that was forfeited. Following an internal review, Roedean confirms that the contents of the voice note are factually incorrect and do not reflect the documented sequences of events. Roedean has a long-standing inter-school relationship with King David Linksfield and has participated in many events together. On the 2nd of February, Roedean formally notified King David Linksfield in writing that we were unable to field a team for the fixture due to prior school commitments, including compulsory academic workshops, and requested either a postponement or, if not possible, then cancellation of the fixture. King David acknowledged this communication and confirmed in writing that the fixture would be recorded as a forfeit in accordance with protocol. As such, no formal fixture was scheduled to take place on the 3rd of February. Roedean is deeply committed to diversity, inclusion, and mutual respect. We reject unequivocally any allegations of anti-Semitism or discriminatory conduct. We recognize that situations of this nature can cause concerns and discomfort within the school communities. Roedean is engaging directly with King David Linksfield and ISASA to ensure that this matter is properly understood and addressed through the appropriate processes. In light of these engagements, it would be inappropriate to debate or litigate the facts publicly at this stage. We are committed to resolving this matter responsibly and constructively and will communicate further once the process has concluded. All right, so let's unpack it. What I can tell you categorically is that the letter that has been circulated by Roedean, as well as that statement that you read, the last one, that was the school's actual public statement to the community and to South Africa, is false. And the reason I say that is because there are two voice recordings that I'm not going to share here because of legal reasons, but I'm sure you can get your hands on if you are part of the Jewish community or if you know somebody that's part of the Jewish community. I'm going to summarize it and truly just get to the core of it, because it's a 7-minute voice note initially, and then the subsequent voice note after the fact is 12 minutes long. Now, initially, the very first voice note stated that there are some concerns from Roedean's side in order to play this team, this Jewish team, and said, how can we work around this? Because their concern was that the girls are from Roedean are concerned about the security guards. And the reason for the security guards is because, as we all know, in South Africa, there's been a lot of anti-Semitism. There's been a lot of protests against Jewish individuals and also against Jewish schools. And ultimately, the school is just doing what it needs to do to protect itself and ensure that there isn't some radical individual that decides to go to the school, and God knows what could potentially happen. So it's well within the school's reasoning to just provide security. However, the school, the teacher from Roedean then on that 6-minute voice note said that she'll look into it, see if they can find a way around it. But the problem is, unfortunately, the sentiment in the country at the moment, they have to be aware of, how the government feels. And then the person correctly said, a school is supposed to be non-political. There's no need to bring politics into the way that schools are run. And then the Roedean teacher acknowledged that and said they'll take that into consideration, and ultimately that she would get back to the principal of King David. Now, that did not happen, and because they were going to find a solution to this problem. So this letter by Roedean is patently false from various sources that have said that they never saw that letter never reached the school on the 2nd of February, and that the person that was on the voice note said that they would get back to the school if there were any developments. So you would think that if the person doesn't come back to you, that means that the picture is on, because she said that we will, find out whether or not how we proceed. So how we proceed means I'll let you know whether it's going to be cancelled or not. And then, of course, as you all know, they arrived there, and then it was said that the girls will not play against these Jewish children. And subsequently then, what happened was the principal called, or the teacher called the principal, or the principal called the teacher. I'm not too sure. All I do know is the two of them were talking, and this is the principal from King David speaking to the teacher. Whether she's in charge of sport, I'm not sure, because it doesn't clarify it there. But in essence, what was being said was the principal was outraged by the fact that they went there to Roedean and they couldn't play against Roedean. And Roedean refused to play against the school and the Jewish children. Then she asked, but why did this take place? How did it happen? And the teacher couldn't really answer. The overlying issue here was the message it is sending out to the students and to the parents, because according to her, the parents were concerned playing against this Jewish school. Ultimately, though, that should not have played a role, and because you can't involve politics, you can't involve religion when you're going to play against a team and a school. So ultimately, the teacher that was supposed to get back to the principal never did, and then the principal wanted answers. And in that voice note, you can clearly hear that what that teacher from Roedean is saying does not align with the letter and the press statement that Roedean put out there, saying, that there's no anti-Semitism. There are various sources from King David that confirmed, and then, of course, like I said, there's two voice recordings that if you can get your hands on it, it'll be very, very clear that Roedean, in actual fact, never wanted to play against King David, and they were looking for a way to get out of it with that initial first phone call. And then subsequently, when King David didn't give in and say, okay, no, don't worry, we'll move it to another date or we'll cancel it, then obviously that teacher didn't get back to her, not knowing how to deal with this situation, because she couldn't just come out and say, our parents feel uncomfortable, or our students feel uncomfortable to play against Jewish children, and therefore we can't proceed. So she had to approach it from a different aspect, and I'm very glad that the principal from King David didn't just cower and say, okay, no, we understand, no problem. One of the things that did come up in the voice notes also from the teacher from Roedean was that their children feels uncomfortable to go to King David to play tennis there because of the security guards and the armed guards that are there. The problem, however, is that this match wasn't played at King David. It was played at Roedean. So the security guards weren't going to influence anything or intimidate anybody. So all you need is common sense to see who is right and who is wrong. And in my humble opinion, not only did Roedean clearly indicate that they are anti-Semitic, but the fact that they are doubling down and blatantly lying, not only to their own students and to the parents of those students and to the community at large, but they are also blatantly lying to you, the person that's reading the story and not really understanding what's going on. So ultimately, Roedean, you need to come out and just be honest about what happened. And the reason it's so important is because you have now been caught out in a lie because of those voice notes clearly indicating that you were aware of this tennis match, and the excuses that you've used about your kids having to go for classes and all of that nonsense. It's absolute hogwash, and you know it. And the fact that you've doubled down by lying even more will probably end up with you being condemned even more by the broader South African community, because, believe it or not, the overwhelming majority of people in this country aren't anti-Semitic. The overwhelming majority of people in this country are Christian. 85% of the population of South Africa are Christians. And Christianity and Christians do not have issues with the Jewish people. And this anti-Semitism that trickles down from government needs to stop. This is absolute bullshit. Shame on you, Roedean, for doing this. Shame on you for taking a leaf from the government pages and making this something that should not be in schools at all. Children should be children. Children should not look at another child and go, that's a black child, that's a white child, that's an Indian child, or that is a Christian, that is an atheist, that is a Jew, that is a Muslim. This is not what we should be teaching our children in schools. And the fact that the government is clearly allowing this anti-Semitism to happen because of their own anti-Semitism is very problematic. And there are so many examples of this where our government decides to take Israel to the ICJ and yet ignore the October 7th event itself, shows no remorse or sympathy with what happened on October 7th, just condemning Israel. And then on October 7th, the subsequent years, not sending out anything to say the South African government is thinking of our Jewish people, our Jewish citizens living in this country. None of that. It has just been non-stop Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestine, and consistently condemning the Jews in this country for what happened in Israel, which makes no sense whatsoever. Ultimately, the fact that our government is so tightly aligned with Russia, China, with Iran, and with Palestine, and then subsequent to that with Hamas and Hezbollah, should scare the living shit out of you. And for those of you that say, oh, whatever the government says and does doesn't really have a real effect on everything else in this country, well, here we've got two prominent schools where the one school refuses to play against the other school because the pupils are Jewish. Now, please tell me how that is not trickle down from the government. And that is why when I saw all of these Free Palestine protests, and when they were singing From the River to the Sea, and where they were talking ill and talking so badly about Jewish people, I knew that this was eventually going to trickle down. And here we are right now. So to conclude this video, Roedean, stop talking cock. Come out, be honest about your anti-Semitism, wear that badge with pride. Because those 2 voice notes that you weren't aware of being recorded has now leaked out into the public, and now they can make their own minds up, and they can clearly see that not only did you lie to them initially, but in your letter that you have given to everybody, you are once again blatantly lying to them and talking absolute cock about what really happened. It's time that you hold the school governing body responsible for that, because ultimately the only people that need to account for their actions is Roedean. And to the King David School and to the people that go there and the parents, my sympathies are with you, and I'm really sorry that you as the Jewish community had to go through something like that. Please know that the overwhelming majority of South Africans don't feel the way that Roedean and their teachers and their principal feels. And listen, I know that not every student and not every parent feels that way, and not every teacher feels that way, but unfortunately, when the principal acts in a specific way, they act that way on behalf of the teachers, the students, and the parents. And that is why it's so important for the parents and for the teachers inside that school to speak up and be heard. And let's nip this anti-Semitism bullshit in the bud. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Remember, it's absolutely free. Don't forget to share this video far and wide. And lastly, if you support my content and if you support this channel, please consider becoming a member. You can do so by clicking the join button below, and it'll cost you R39.99. And that's all I got to say, everybody. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
And I just needed to get or pick your brain about fixtures, particularly because we're facing a bit of pressure from our community and our constituents regarding just not playing against King David. So it's almost like what's happening out in society is now affecting us at a school level. We do have a plan on how to fix it. I just needed to get your sense of how is it affecting your community as well, because it's not something that we'd ordinarily do or pull out of a fixture. But we're finding increasingly, as time goes by, our community is just placing pressure on us for something that has nothing to do with schools.
Well, I must say that we haven't had any pressure whatsoever from any other school. All our fixtures have gone ahead, especially in the last 2.5 years. We've had no pressure whatsoever. And if anything, there's been... certainly has been, school sport. It hasn't been translated into anything else.
I know. And you haven't received any complaints about parents as well, your parent conduct?
About what?
Just the parents and any remarks on the side of the court, because I'm particularly in our community dealing with that. And the manner in which my parents are conducting themselves on the side of the field, particularly when it's schools where they feel that we need to take a stance against and we refuse to.
We haven't had, as I said, we've had no incidences at all whatsoever. It's just, as I said, certainly last year we never, in 2025, 2024, we had absolutely no issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so what are your parents objecting to us playing you?
Yeah, so they're basically saying because of the stance that the government took, we're supposed to support that. And I keep having to remind them that schools are apolitical, first and foremost. Particularly in South Africa, we don't take a stance like that. And just navigating school sport and separating it from community pressures, because the community can go in any direction, and if we keep responding to community pressures, we're basically going to be an island within school sport. So that's the
So
conversation.
it's not just a Jewish day school.
Say that again?
It's not just a Jewish day school issue.
So at the moment, it's presenting itself as a Jewish day school issue, but it's going to get bigger than that, because there are other schools that they just don't want to play against.
So what is your suggestion? I mean, it's very, very worrying that. As an ISASA school, schools, we should be collaborative, we should be inclusive, we should be able to debate. It's a very worrying trend.
No, it is, and that's why I wanted to speak to you to see if it had come to you or if it's just us in isolation. Because what I've asked our sports department to do is, if at all possible, try to push our tennis fixture out. I have a meeting with the tennis parents, particularly in this instance, just to gauge where they're coming from and still remind them that this is not a stance that we take. And then the girls themselves as well, just to remind them as well, because the impact in our community is a far bigger impact, because they're almost indirectly placing pressure on those players who do want to play, but because there's just this environment of cancer culture that's cropped up as well. So we're dealing with that in two ways, and they're using this as one of the justifications amongst other things.
So I'm not sure we can push it out. If you as a school aren't willing to play, then the points would become King David's. But I think this would need to be discussed at a broader level, to be honest with you. And I'm not willing to place my students at risk at any level. We could bring security, but I wouldn't want that to be escalated. I just think it's a great pity that in a school environment, this is what we've resorted to.
I know. No, there won't be a need to bring security. We want to honor the fixture. The responsibility would be for me just to have a discussion with those individuals within my community. Okay. But at all costs, I'd protect any school. Yeah. It's not something I.
Yeah, but I think
any school.
I don't think that. I just think that if there's going to be parents that would be heckling from the side, these are children that we're speaking about, who are willing to play, who are part and parcel of a South African community. I'm not prepared to allow my kids to be exposed to that.
No, I understand that completely. Do you mind if I get back to you about the sports fixture once I just get feedback from our head of sport? Because I am going to be at the fixture anyway.
Okay. All right,
I'm basically going to be there to make sure my parents behave. That's the main reason why I'm actually there.
Okay.
But I just needed to get a sense if your community had faced it before. And
Not
I
at
think
all.
It's just ours in isolation.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yours is us. I've never, ever had anything. I mean, our boys played rugby. We played at Catholic schools. We played at Anglican schools. We've played at co-ed schools. And we haven't had one single issue.
Yeah, no, and I've never dealt. I mean, I've dealt with your netball. I've been with Tiffany at the prep level, with Roxanne as well at the high school level, and this is the first time something like this has ever happened to me as well.
All right, so can you come back to me as soon as possible?
I will definitely do so.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Bye.
Thank you.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.